So the next agenda item is about the harmonization of interfaces. It's a long-running project which started little more than 2 years ago in collaboration with the IEC, Sensenelec, and us. So I'm going now to report about where we are, and I'm happy to tell that the project has been finished in Q2 this year. It was just before the holiday period, so we said, maybe we don't deploy in July. So we actually delivered the production in August when we were back from holidays. This is a first building block of a series of new features that we are going to make available to the ISO members and as well IEC and Sensenelec members. Next project is about to start in 2019, and further communication is going to be sent. We are also going to consult ITSAG and potentially through ITN about the priorities, about what should come next. What we have done in the harmonization of interfaces, the scope was about publications and metadata around projects. So the good news for you is that I do not have more slides because since we rolled out the project, I'm able now to demonstrate live what we have done. So I'm going to face the live demonstration effect. So I already, please accept any apologies for problems that we may encounter. So when we talk about APIs, we first talk about human beings. These are the developers who need to implement the APIs. They could be your colleagues at the NSBs. They could also be service companies who work for you. So one of the components and a critical component of the project was to deliver an API portal in which the developers could find everything they need in order to successfully implement the new harmonized interfaces. So the result you see here is on the web. So this is our new API portal for developers. And this is the only focal point you need to have access to in order to successfully implement the APIs and access to the harmonized interfaces. So this was the third work package of our project, and it is live. The project started with real business modeling, actually. So the first work package was to define a harmonized way to describe projects and publications. And on top of that, once we have defined the data model, we needed to define the way by which you can access or what you can seek for in these projects and publications. So the portal in itself will guide the developer through what needs to be done. It will expose documentation, and it does expose very, very technical resources about the data models and the APIs. So to summarize here, I'm not logged in the portal. This is the public face of it. There is already a get started guide, which in 9 steps will really start by discovering what is available until invoking the APIs and calling the services. So this is completely public. You don't even need to register. You only sign up at number 4. So there is already plenty of activity you can dedicate before even signing up to the portal. The other important thing is that the harmonized data model and the access modalities have been also exposed in technical repositories. These are more technical resources. If I visit the harmonized data, this is a Git repository, which contains the schema so we decided to model in XSD, so you will see the project schemas and the publication schemas. This is just a single XSD file. There is no magic here. And more importantly, to start with, we have the documentation, especially the design documentation, which has been circulated in 2016 and 17 on the respectively publication and project. So if you open here, you're going to find the request for comments we sent months ago, and you may recognize these documents that you have been involved with. If my MS Word decides to open, well, it's not so important. You don't need to see, you've got these documents already. Okay, well, so these are the definition of the data model, and on top of that, we provide samples to make your life a little bit easier. So, for example, a sample publication here available in JSON format so that you can immediately read, or in XML format as well, like that. So there are only a few sample files for publication, and the same, a few sample files for projects. So this is about the data, the business data, how it is modeled. Regarding what you can do in terms of invoking the API endpoints, we have another separate repository, and we have decided to standardize on OpenAPI. This is a common specification, which is mostly intended for machines. I mean, humans can read them, but basically here in these files with a specific format, you will find that there's an API for projects, no big surprise here, and you can specify some query parameters, okay, such as the last change timestamp from, okay, so it's critical or cryptical parameter, basically what these parameters do. So this describes the endpoints of the APIs. So the live demonstration very, very soon about that. So this was the public view of the portal. If you go here on the top in the menu, you see that there are no APIs accessible. Well, we are happy to share the documentation if you are not registered, but definitely if you want to see the details of the APIs and in particular practice them, you will have to log in. So in order to have an account, first you will have to sign up, and we have a number of you who already have an account here. Or if you come as a second visitor, a second time, you will have to sign in. So here I'm going to sign in as myself. You specify your email address. I'm using my Gmail account. You have to agree to the term of condition. I let you read them separately. And here, this is quite surprising. You don't get access. You will get an email. They've done a quite brilliant move. The people who have implemented this technology, behind that is Google. The brilliant move is that they do not manage your ID, they do not manage your credentials, they don't manage anything. They just rely that you have access to a mailbox which is secured by you only. And it also prevents people from using group accounts. So this is really good because your developers are named people. So via this link, then you fall back to the portal exactly as before, with the slight difference that now on the upper right corner, I see my account here. I am logged in. Second difference is that now I see that I have access to an API. Why is it so? It's because during the process, if you follow the guide, you will tell us that you have created an account, and we, ISO, will do the necessary due diligence to grant you access to an API. So it's not because anybody in the world can create an account here that they will have access to the APIs. We will review who can do what. It's very important mention. From this API, normally you can immediately see what are the various features and how you can invoke an API, and you can even try it out. So you can specify parameters, query the system, and see the response. But this is too user-friendly, so I'm going to use actually more technical access to the API now. So from the API, you may have, or you will have to select which API bundles you want to work with. Here, as Laurent Tétoni, as myself, as a human being, I've decided to create two endpoints or to bundle two APIs to call ISO. And in this API, this is the part which has been approved. So here, the due diligence work has been done by us, ISO CS, and this API endpoint has access. It has an API key. So this is the technical identifier that I'm going to use to authenticate to the APIs. And behind this little thing is a secret, which is equivalent somehow of a password. So now that you can snap my screen, you will have access to an API as myself. So you won't be able to try because very soon after this presentation, I'm going to renew my credentials. So everything you're going to see now is not going to last very long. So now let's get a bit technical. Can you see my, you should see my window here. Okay. And I'm going to follow the guide because there's a guide, so it's intended to be followed. I'm going to the guide here, and I'm going to actually use the OAuth 2 protocol, which is a standard protocol for access, in order to obtain an access token to this API. This is all documented. Basically, you are going to take this line here, and obviously you can program it. And then you're going to use my API key, which is the identity of my developer endpoint, which I'm going to paste here, and use the API secret, which is here. And normally, if things go well, the system is going to respond with an HTTP 200, which is a successful response. And in there, you will see an access token. And this access token is valid for 1 hour, actually 1 second less than 1 hour, and probably 10 seconds less now. And this access token is the magic piece of information which relates any subsequent requests to my account. So I have to copy it into, for safety here, into my clipboard. Okay, and now we are ready with that, we are ready to invoke the APIs. So from the guide, once I have my response, I call invoke the APIs. I'm going to fetch information about a project which has been published a while ago already, a few years ago, which is ISO 9001. And it happens that I know, for the sake of this demonstration, I want to make things simple. I know the ID of that project. How to get the ID of a project? You can obviously search for it. Here is an example. I will open two browser tabs to two very well-known ISO applications. The first one is the ISO Online. So this is our public site. You can search for a project, and if you find your project, you will see that there's an ID in the URL here. Okay, another one, if you're a standard developer, you will use the ISO project, which is the successor of the project portal. You can search a project, and once you find your project, in the URL, there is the same ID. This is the technical ID that we use throughout all our systems. So there are ways to find these IDs, but you can also use the API to search. And once I have the ID to that project, I'm going to invoke it. So now let's read together. I'm going to the API of ISO, which is the Harmonized API of project. And since I know the ID, I can directly specify what is called a URN, which is a harmonized scheme that we have together with the IEC, CEN, and CENELEC to specify that this ID 62085 is actually an ISO project and not an IEC publication or a CEN committee, okay? And I'm going to invoke this with the necessary security information, which is relayed in HTTP as, it's called a bearer token. So I specify my bearer token, which is the access token that I got yesterday, and which is, minutes ago, which should be in my clipboard like that. And if I invoke this line, I should receive something valid, and I have an invalid access token, which is a demo effect. So let me come back. C'est celui que j'ai reçu pourtant. Okay. So I'm going to scroll up to my access token here. There are always demo effects. Okay. So here is the response from the server, all the metadata. Since this is JSON, I can actually format this a little bit more elegantly. So here you see, this is all the metadata, including all the stages and the relationship, even the abstract of the project here, the content of the abstract in 2 languages. So this is the response in JSON. If I want the same response in XML, because my processing is easier in XML, I can specify a header -h accept application XML. Okay, and then the response is in XML. You see the many little brackets. What was interesting at the end of my previous response is that this project led to 4 publications, which are listed here highlighted. So now if I want to get the details of these publications, I will use the other endpoint, which is the publication endpoint. And I'm going to copy that. So it's exactly as before. I'm going, but now to the harmonized publication endpoint, specifying, for example, the international standard here. So I copy this. And I will have to relay, as before, the information about access. It's a lot of copy-paste. Normally, you will use an API for that. And I will relay back to my access token. Tu le vois? There's a lot of text. Hein? Non, alors il faut que je le reprenne avant dans une commande. Ouais. Okay, I have it here. Copy, paste. Okay, if things go well, this is now the result of the publication. And if I display this as JSON, it has different data. What is very interesting here is that you will have the access to the content now. So here you see an application PDF MIME type, and you see a URL for download. Okay, and there's even a checksum, a binary checksum about the content. So now we are going to access this content directly and download the standard. So for that, I will take a third, basically copy paste the endpoint, which is quoted above. So I will do this. Like this. Okay, and specify as before the header. Il est où? Tu la vois ma commande? Okay. Excuse me, it's a little bit cumbersome. Okay, and now if I do that, normally I will receive the content. Well, this is the content, obviously, so I'm going to send it output result.pdf. Okay, and if I had a PDF, I should normally be able to retrieve my content, which happens to be just a little second. an Arabic version of the standard, which is, do you see anything? No. So, ouais. Second. Okay. So moving slowly. Okay, so this is the PDF that I received via the last API call. So what you have seen now is 3 API calls. Well, actually, first I grab an access token for a duration of 1 hour. Then I can access a project. I can access all the publication data. And from the publication data, I can access the binary content. All of that with one single access to an API. So this is the part of the demonstration.
And all this harmonized with IEC, SEN, and Senelec.
Yes, as soon as IEC, SEN, and Senelec have released the harmonized APIs, you will be able to do exactly the same with the same type of access, with the same type of URL and the same type of endpoints. Here was the document I had before. So the take-home message from that is that even though the demonstration takes a little time, in 70 years of ISO, it has never been as easy to access our project metadata and our contents. At the moment, we have 11 NSBs actively working on these APIs towards an implementation, and we have 6 NSBs interested. So the service that I have shown is going to replace the ISONet distribution and the ISO STD download service, which were the current ways of doing things. And those two are going to be end-of-life support by the end of next year and eventually discontinued in end of 2020. This means that there will be 2 years of parallel run of the new APIs versus the old ones, but we are strongly pushing and recommending you to have a look at the new system because it's much easier, much seamless integration, and it relies on new technologies. So thank you all for listening to this long demonstration. I hope I convinced you. If you have any questions.
Absolutely, Laurent. That was very impressive to those who never saw how it works. And that was me, for example. The question is, I wasn't able to write down everything and keep everything in mind. So is it planned to have some tutorials or webinars or so for developers to get more familiar with the mechanism, with the new mechanisms?
So, yes, there have been, basically there was a pilot group for this, which started a while ago, actually. It started 1.5 years ago, but during the prototype phase of this new API portal, we had a pilot group, including people from DIN. We have, I think, 6 or 7 web calls at technical level to share experience. Every second week we were doing a webinar. Now for the adoption phase, since we are now in production, we are planning to support and to help the NSBs who seek it. We can organize definitely webinars to regroup this effort. It's always nicer to be motivated and emulated by a group of people. The documentation and all the resources are in the API portal that I have shown before, and the URL is here. You will have the slides of today's meeting anyway. Normally, everything should be linked from the API portal. If it's not the case, I'm always updating the documentation.
Great.
I have
many
question.
thanks. Yeah.
The first one is I did not catch exactly your previous slide because you wrote a new project about to start in 2019, but I do not catch exactly which is this new project.
Okay, so basically the publication and project metadata were the first brick of the foundation brick of this new way to access APIs via the portal that you have seen. On top of that, we are going to extend the APIs to new functionalities, especially dedicated to other type of data. So this is the idea of the new project. It is very likely that the next things we are going to harmonize, but this is still under discussion, is about committee and working documents. But then what will be the next things are that going to be votes, identities of people, roles, ballots, meetings. This is open and the discussion will be held at the ITSAC level.
Okay,
so also at the ITAG of IEC, since this is a collaboration work, we want to harmonize with the IEC and Sensenelec.
Perfect. This is clear. Thank you. And the second is is it possible to have the registration of the video so I could show to my developer your demonstration live? Because you are recording, maybe I could extract your demo. Is it possible to have the video at the end of the meeting?
Yes, absolutely. I can send you the video. Notice that playing the video will take longer than a developer following the guided steps. It's really, we have really good feedback. I mean, people just copy paste the URLs in the guide and it just works.
Yes, but with your explanation it could be easier if there is not just technical developer.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your replies.
You're welcome. Other questions?
Hi, Laurent. This is Nelson speaking. Just to clarify, well, first of all, fantastic work and really amazing. I think this is going to be easier for everyone. But just to make it clear to me, we can use the APIs either to feed our databases with ISO's information, or to have direct access to ISO's information without having to store anything in our site. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes.
So if I want to give up storing any data from ISO, I can have direct access real time online from using these APIs.
Yes.
Oh, fantastic! This is gonna be great. Okay, now I got it, and I want the video as well. This is gonna be easier for us to show to our developers.
Yeah. Okay.
And congratulations.
You're welcome. We have Stéphane Châtelet who joined just during my presentation, so he's now in just at the time for the continuation of this meeting. So if we are okay with this topic, we move to the next.
We have a few raised hands left.
Yes, sure.
Yes, thank you.
René, for example. Short.
Yeah, here I am. Thank you. I just wanted to say impressive work. Really looking forward to using this. I think this is one of the most important topics for a lot of NSBs. And actively going to work on it to implement next year.
Yeah, one of the six. Thank you. One of the 6 person I open the access from is somebody from ITN already yesterday.
Great. Thanks.
We have René. René had the hand raised, but maybe from the last time. Okay. Good, we can move to the next.
So hello everyone, Steph.